We're talking about things like repairing a rental property your child owns, planting crops on their land, selling the produce from that land, like milk from a cow, signing short-term rental agreements, usually for less than 3 years. The key here is that the core value of the property isn't being diminished or put at risk. You're simply maintaining it and making it productive. For these acts of administration, parents generally don't need to ask for anyone's permission. The law trusts you to handle these routine matters in your child's best interest. Now, let's talk about the other side of the coin, acts of disposition. This is where things get much more serious and the rules become a lot stricter. Acts of disposition are actions that significantly alter the child's assets. They either reduce the value of the patrimony or expose it to a major risk. The most obvious examples are selling a property, giving it away as a gift, or taking out a mortgage on it. These actions change the very structure of what your child owns. Because of the high stakes involved, the law puts up a big red stop sign. Parents cannot simply decide to sell their child's house or land on their own. The general rule is clear. Parents are authorized to perform acts of administration, but they are not authorized to perform acts of disposition without a judge's approval. This is the cornerstone of protecting a minor's assets. This isn't just a rule in Venezuela. Countries like Argentina, Chile, and Colombia have very similar safeguards in place to prevent a child's inheritance or property from being squandered. So, what if there's a legitimate reason to sell a child's property? Maybe you need the money for a critical medical procedure for the child, or to fund their higher education, or perhaps to move to a better, safer home. The law allows for this, but it requires a formal process called judicial authorization. Article 267 of the Venezuelan Civil Code lays this out clearly. Parents must get a judge's permission for any act that goes beyond simple administration. This includes selling or mortgaging property, giving up an inheritance, or accepting a gift that comes with heavy conditions. It also applies to legal matters, like settling a lawsuit involving the child or entering into arbitration. The parent must file a formal request with the court, explaining exactly what they want to do and why it is absolutely necessary or clearly beneficial for the child. You can't just say, "I need the money." You have to prove it. This means the request for authorization must be made before you take any action, and the authorization is specific. It's for that one particular sale or transaction. If you want to do something else later, you have to start the process all over again with a new request. Let's walk through how this judicial authorization process typically works. A parent files the request with the court. The court then notifies the public prosecutor's office, which acts as a watchdog to protect the child's interests. The judge's job is to verify that the proposed action is truly necessary or useful for the child. This isn't a rubber stamp process. The judge will often hear from the other parent, especially if they didn't join in the request. If the child is over 16, the judge will also listen to their opinion. Beyond needing permission for certain acts, there are some things the law absolutely forbids parents from doing. It's all about avoiding conflicts of interest. This is a clear conflict of interest, so the law creates what's called a relative legal incapacity to prevent it. Another critical prohibition involves inheritances. When a child is set to inherit, parents cannot accept it purely and simply. They must accept it with the benefit of inventory. This is a crucial legal distinction. Accepting with benefit of inventory means the child is only responsible for the deceased estates up to the value of the assets they inherit. It protects the child from inheriting a mountain of debt that could wipe out their own personal assets. Now, are all of a child's assets managed by their parents? Not necessarily. The law carves out a few important exceptions where parents do not have administrative control. The first exception is when a child inherits or is gifted property with the specific condition that their parents are not to manage it. The person giving the gift or leaving the inheritance can appoint another administrator. If they don't, a judge will appoint a special guardian or a curator to manage those specific assets. This can also happen if the child accepts an inheritance against their parents' wishes. Another major exception applies to older, working teenagers. A child who is 16 years or older has the right to manage the money they earn from their own job or trade. This gives them a degree of financial independence and responsibility. This ensures that any ongoing damage to the child's financial future is stopped.